far and out of sight. I really need someone to talk to, and nobody else knows how to comfort me tonight. Snow is cold, rain is wet, chills my soul right to the marrow. I won't be happy till I see you alone again, till I'm home again and feeling right.
Good morning. Welcome to the Skinny for Friday, December 27th, 2024, the last Skinny of this entertaining year. A little bit of Lucy Dacus to get us started today. The song is called Home Again. And later in the program, we'll revive last year's Coming Home show. We'll be joined by young folks back in town for the holidays. We'll hear about how they view their old stomping grounds and if they think they can actually come back. My name is Ray Roa. I'm flying solo today. Mitch Perry is resting up for all the hard work that he does over the year covering the session for the Florida Phoenix. And Ben Montgomery is a full seaman now. He's out on the ocean somewhere. So flying solo today, but we do have some special guests that we'll bring on. But first, let's talk about this here. If you believe the results of the election, working class people are fed up with the status quo and demanding better pay and living conditions and really any kind of relief from the pain and penny pinching of everyday life. Some of those workers said all of that a little bit louder on Christmas Eve when this 5-day strike culminated at Starbucks, and it reached all the way here to Tampa, outside of the Starbucks on North Del Mabry Highway and Line by Avenue near Carrollwood. There, Creative Loafing Tampa Bay photographer Dave Decker said close to 2,000 people stood on a picket line for about 7 hours to call for a strong contract between the coffee chain and its employees. Last May, that particular shop there became the first unionized Starbucks in Tampa Bay. 3 months later, another shop in Clearwater followed suit. Blake Smolin is part of the chapter of Starbucks Workers United, SBWU, based at the Tampa Starbucks, was on the picket line last Tuesday. Blake, are you with us?
Hi, Ray. Yeah, I'm with you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Blake. Before we get into that action on Christmas Eve, you spent about a year preparing for that May unionization vote. Can you describe what it's been like at your store between that vote over the summer and the strike that kind of hit ahead here on Christmas Eve?
Yeah, definitely. Well, when we finally voted yes to unionize, that was around the beginning of a new era, if you will, between our union and Starbucks. We had agreed to neutrality, which means that the company was going to have a bit of a hands-off approach and let people engage in free organizing, which, that's the way it should be. And so we had also just begun bargaining sessions with the company. So whenever we joined, it was it's a lot different than a lot of our predecessors who really laid the groundwork in a strong fight that it was, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. And so this Christmas Eve strike was part of a nationwide strike authorized, and this number is pretty staggering. 98% of union members. The SBWU said it would happen at 300 locations in 45 states. Officials from Starbucks told NPR that less than 200 stores across the U.S. did not open as a result of the strike, but yours did. Joe, can we pull up a little bit of audio? We're just going to play a tiny bit of audio from what it sounded like outside of the store there.
The picket line. 2, 4, 6, 8. Don't negotiate. 3, 5, 7, 9. Don't cross the picket line. No contract, no coffee. No contract, no coffee. No contract, no coffee. No contract, no coffee.
Blake, so I believe I saw you in some of the pictures that Dave Decker took. Can you talk about what it was like to see a lot of your regulars in this new context? If you're not familiar with this store, it's at a really busy intersection there, pretty close to the suburbs. It is the suburbs. There's a drive-through. I mean, it is super busy. What was it like to see some of the people that you see every day kind of coming through and them seeing you on this side of the picket line?
Well, of course, it's always great to see our regulars. We have a great relationship with our community at that location, and we really noticed that a lot of the regulars respected what we were doing, and they turn away and go get coffee somewhere else for the day. And so we're really grateful for them and for their support.
How much do you think that your customers understand the demands of the union, which, to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the union has been working towards a commitment from Starbucks to negotiate a quote-unquote foundational framework, for collective bargaining, resolving outstanding litigation, unfair labor practices by the end of the year. You mentioned them. I think we call it solidarity out on the street. They see you there. They turn around. How much do you think they understand the nuance? Is it their job to understand the nuance? What's your take on that?
Honestly, I'm not too sure, but I think that generally the Starbucks Workers United campaign is very fortunate to have a lot of public support and a lot of public awareness. So I think generally the average consumer that goes to Starbucks is probably more aware than we might think about what we're fighting for.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Blake, but SBWU is asking for a base wage of at least $20 an hour for all of its baristas, with annual 5% raises and cost of living adjustments. Also enrollment in the Starbucks-sponsored retirement plan, a little bit more consistency in the schedules, enhanced paid leave protocols, and better health care, among other initiatives. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that was about what we had for what's posted on the Starbucks Workers United website for our framework of what we're just basically fighting for. So I don't feel comfortable talking about the exact content of proposals, but generally speaking, yeah, that's what we have.
And so according to NPR, Starbucks came to the union with a proposal that included no immediate wage increases for the union baristas and a guarantee of just 1.5% of a wage increase in recent years. The union called that insulting. They cited the salary of Starbucks' new CEO, Brian Niccol, formerly of Chipotle. I think The Guardian said that his annual salary will be $1.6 million. With the opportunity to earn up to $23 million worth of share-based bonuses. And if it paid out in full, would bring his pay to $113.2 million. Blake, are you comfortable elaborating on what you mean and what the union means by unfair labor practices and what that means for workers in your store? What is the pay range in your store? How many hours are you getting? What's it like? Paint a picture for the people that are listening about what the workers are living through.
Well, at our location, I believe that the base pay starts around just above $15 an hour. And of course, in Tampa, you can't find a one bedroom for under $1,200 a month now. So this is absolutely not a living wage. We need something better. And if Starbucks is able to pay their CEO $57,000 per hour, I think we can do a little better for the people who make the company run.
The person that's been the most vocal, I think, about this from Starbucks has been its executive vice president, Sarah Kelly. She called the union's demands for wage increases unsustainable, and she said that there's a benefits package that Starbucks offers: health care, free college tuition, paid family leave, company stock, and that makes working at Starbucks more appealing. What do you say to that argument?
Well, to your first point, Ray, where she says unsustainability. Again, I don't feel comfortable exactly diving into our economics. However, for Starbucks to call anything that we are asking for unsustainable while they have paid a new CEO over $85 million just to join the company. They pay him $57,000 an hour, and they pay for private jet flights from Seattle to Southern California once a week. I think it's just a bit ironic to quote anything sustainable about that.
And if you're just joining us right now, our guest is Blake Small, and they were on the picket line outside of Starbucks in Tampa when on Christmas Eve, a 5-day strike culminated in a 7-hour picket there, which about 24 people were outside the store there. So, Blake, tell me what's next. What should local customers expect at your store, and what are the prospects for more local unionization votes in 2025? I know Clearwater shortly followed your store, and your store followed Orlando. So what does the rest of the year look like for your union, your shop, and where do you hope to be a year from today?
Well, immediately what we're doing is we're relaxing. We're spending some time taking the holidays with our families and our communities. But this is definitely just the beginning until Starbucks comes with remedies for these unfair labor practices and they come with a legitimate economic offer. The fight is going to continue, and we hope that more people in our community join the fight. We would love to have you. And so hopefully a year from now, we will be well into having a strong contract that we've built with the company, and we'll be in a much better place than we are now.
Blake, is there anything that you wanted to say before we move to the next segment of the show that you really want people to understand about what you're working for over there?
I think we covered just about anything,
okay.
But I mean, we're still fighting. Just know that.
Right on. Thanks so much for your time today, Blake, and enjoy the rest of your holiday and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Ray. You as well.
Thanks. So now we move into the studio here on the border of East Tampa and Seminole Heights. It's a beautiful place. Joe Remo's on the board. Irene Matthews is on the phone today. She's ready to take your phone call, 813-239-9663. I can see your emails at dj@wmnf.org, and I can also read your text messages, 813-433-0885. We're joined by three familiar faces and one new one coming into the studio for what now I hope is our annual Coming Home show. From my left to right, Otis Curry Miller is here, Morrissey Montgomery, Asher Montgomery, and Ella Spokas, right? Say hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going? And welcome back to WMNF, and I'm glad you got home safely. Who's been home the longest? Who came home first?
I think I probably came home first.
Okay.
I came back like December 4th.
Okay, and you're over at UCF. You just finished your first, I guess, what is it, semester, right?
Yes.
How did it go? UCF is a gigantic school.
Yeah, it was definitely super fun just to have like the big public school college experience. Like I live in the dorms and it's huge. I've met like a ton of people every single day. And it was just like a wild ride. Like definitely super fun for my first semester in college. But and I learned how to like balance school and still being able to have fun. But it was a great time.
I bumped into you at Cafe Hey. Have you already eaten enough Tampa food to be ready to go home?
No.
Okay, so you still got catching up to. And next to you, Asher is here. Asher, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think you're a junior at Harvard now. I feel so old when I say this. Time goes by so fast. Can you tell us a little bit that when you came home and what it's like to be home?
Yes. I'm a junior at Harvard, which is just crazy. It's gone by so incredibly quickly, like 2 blinks, and it's already my third year. I got back on December 19th, and I'll be home for about a month. It's been great to be home. I mean, there's so many things about Tampa that are incredibly unique that I miss, especially the Cuban food, especially all of the interesting people that are wandering the streets of Tampa. But yeah, and there's also things I miss about Cambridge, which is like more increasingly starting to feel like my primary home because I spend so much of my year there. I think that it has taken like this 3 years to get to that point, but now that I'm spending so much more time over there, that it's certainly starting to feel like my primary comfort space. But
and another interesting person is sitting next to you, your sister, Morrissey. Is it okay if I call you Mo?
Yes,
All
that's
right,
fine.
cool. I bumped into you in the Cafe Hey too. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners? Kind of talk about what you're doing up there in New York and when you came home.
Yeah, my name's Morrissey, or Mo. I go to Parsons School of Design at the New School in New York City. I'm a communication design major, which is essentially graphic design. I don't really know why they call it communication design. But yeah, I got home on December 14th. Ella had just come to visit me for a week for my final week. So we went to do all like the touristy stuff in New York City, and I'm happy to be home. I love the cold up in New York, but it's nice to get a little break, like halfway through the winter, to be able to, wear shorts outside and walk around. I think contrary to Asher, I do still feel like Tampa is my home over New York City, but it shifts a little bit every day. I think part of that also is that I haven't been in the same place both my years that I was there.
Okay, so you did move.
Yeah, I was on the Upper East Side my first year, and now my second year I'm in Bushwick, which is in Brooklyn.
Okay. Is that a closer commute over to Greenwich?
No, it's not.
Further.
It's a little bit further, and it's a little bit less consistent as well because the trains in Brooklyn are down quite often. But it is cheaper than living in Manhattan. So
is it cheaper than living in Tampa?
I could not tell you that.
Okay.
I haven't apartment searched in Tampa,
Okay.
so I'm not sure.
And over here, our other panelist here, Otis, say hello to the listeners and remind them who you are. You're in New Orleans, so you stayed in the South.
Well, that might not have been the move, but I'm Otis. I'm I guess a junior now with credits at Loyola, New Orleans. I go there for music industry studies, which sort of is a degree about the business of the music industry and production and engineering. I play guitar. I write music. I'm in a band called Fish Space Band ! Just to so if you typed it into your Spotify, you don't spell it wrong. We're not PH, not fish. And I think that New Orleans definitely feels like home, more so now than it did before. I pretty quickly got away from the sense that Tampa is residence. I think that this place as a city has a lot to offer in terms of culture and food and a lot of other things, but there's a certain sense that it is, I don't know, it moves like almost, it's harsher, I guess, in a way than New Orleans, if that makes sense. I mean, there's less tree cover, there's less shade. The urban areas feel more like just sun beating down on you with pavement everywhere. And I have family and friends out in New Orleans. I've started to build a community there, so that's definitely home now for me.
That's an interesting. So the impetus of the show for the listeners who haven't been with us for the entire year, shame on you. This idea that Thomas Wolfe wrote about, that you can't go home. This idea that when you take off for a place, in the words of Ben Montgomery, far and wide, the odds are not very good that you'll come back to where you're from. You'll always think of this place fondly, but we want to explore whether or not that plays out. And I think you've kind of hit on that, Otis. If I can stay with you. Last time you were here, you all talked about living in these places, and it seems like, was there a point when you knew that New Orleans was becoming more of a home? Was there a single point? Was there a day? Was there a vision? You talk about walking being covered by trees. Last time you were here, the potholes. Do you remember, or did it just kind of...
I couldn't tell you exactly when it happened, but I think that there's this sense where the newness of a place wears off, and that's when it really starts to feel like home. Like when I first got there, I was looking at all these old, kind of colonial buildings and the old French architecture in the quarter, and all this sort of interesting design, and it feels new and fresh. And then you sort of see it every day, and it gets to a point where the streetcar doesn't really feel as novel anymore, and you start to get irritated when it's late or when it's inconsistent. The novelty of things starts to wear off. And for me, there's that as what it is to be home, right? When the place no longer feels novel. And then there's also the idea that once you have community in a place, that becomes home. Like if you were people there. And obviously, I still have a lot of good friends in Tampa, these folks.
Yeah, you're sitting with them.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think when you have a group of people who sort of are with you where you're at now in your life, and you have a community in the new place, I think people make home more than the space.
If you're just joining us, that voice is Otis Curry Miller. He's one of 4 college students joining us here in studio. They're home. This is, I think, with the exception of maybe Asher, you were born in New York, maybe, and then everybody else was born here. We have Roland Park, Lee Elementary, Stewart Middle School, I think over here.
Hillsborough High School.
All Hillsborough, right?
Yeah.
These are Tampañas, people that are here, and we're talking about whether or not you can come home. They're home now. They're going back to school. Mo, you talked about the heat. It's a heat that hits you. I'm sorry that it hasn't been that hot here. For while you've been down here, but you said that you're a little bit of an outlier here. Can you talk about how you think about home when you're at school? When do you think about home, and what does it feel like to think about? Like, how anxious are you to get back here? Do you miss it? Because you're the one that kind of still feels like Tampa is home.
Yeah, I definitely do miss it when I'm at school. I think it's hard to distinguish a little bit whether I'm anxious to like be finished with the projects that I'm working on, or if I'm anxious to go home, because those things kind of coincide, you know, like I do my final critique and then I get on my plane and go home. So I don't know. I do still think of Tampa as home. I think I do agree with Otis on like the idea of like the people in the community and everything. I just think that I feel like I have a stronger community in Tampa than I do in New York. Obviously there's so many people in New York, but you know, that can be a good thing and a bad thing, like too many people, and it still feels a little bit isolating at times. I also didn't live on campus any of like my first year or my second year, so you know, I'm a little bit far from the people that I'm around, like people that I'm friends with. I can't really just like walk across the street or whatever. Like that's one of my favorite things about being in Tampa, is that Ella lives right down the street from me, so I can just walk over to her house whenever I want to, and that's not really the case in New York. So yeah.
I'm going to jump to Ella here. And by the way, if you have a question for our college age panel, 813-239-9663. Irene will take your call. You can email dj@wmnf.org or send a text message to 813-433-0885. Ella, you're at UCF, so that's a short drive away. You can still come back and do your laundry at home if you want. But there are a lot of people there. And living in Florida, at least from my perspective, can feel pretty intense. Politically, what is the temperature like at your school? I think the narrative that gets presented in the media is that Florida's public universities are this like battleground in a way of like, is there a true diversity of ideas? Are you being censored? Things like that. What are you studying over there, and how much does the hype and reflect the reality that you're living through?
Well, over in UCF, I major in media production, so I'm kind of in there with all like the journalism and the film majors and stuff. So within my major, I definitely see a lot of people with a lot of like-minded ideas, which has been comforting. But I've noticed that even though Orlando itself is a pretty liberal area, a lot of people that go to UCF come from North Florida and a lot of these like areas where people categorize them as being like super conservative and stuff. And so I remember I do meet a lot of people with very different ideas than I do, and it's frustrating at times, especially like since this was an election year. So everyone I meet, like I immediately saw like their ideas and who they were up front, which was very, very frustrating when the election came around. I remember going to class the next day and my professor was talking about how happy he was with the results of the election, and I saw kids walking around campus all day with red MAGA hats on, and I was very frustrated. But although UCF has that kind of radical atmosphere, downtown Orlando is a pretty liberal area, so I found that I just bounced and I went downtown for the day and took a long walk to clear my head. And but yeah, I feel that the atmosphere, like I do meet a bunch of people with very different ideas every day.
A lot of those different ideas. Harvard was like a lightning rod in this election cycle. Asher, I feel like you wrote a lot of stories about it. Asher's always. Do I call you a staffer at the Crimson? What do we call you?
Yeah, I'm a reporter.
Okay, reporter.
She's an editor now.
Editor. Oh, okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Editor at the Crimson. You wrote a lot about. I mean, you had president. You had all kinds of during the protests. You had that kind of stuff. Talk to us a little bit about what the temperature was like up in Harvard and how happy you were to be there in that atmosphere versus, this one politically. Talk to us a little bit about that and some of the reporting that you did.
Yeah, we were definitely the target of a lot of media attention. And it led to a very busy cycle for us at the Crimson. Yeah, we had our president, and our president basically was, called to Congress, and I think she said something about the protests on campus related to Israel-Palestine. Elise Stefanik asked if the certain calls if calls for genocide would result in punishment from the school, and she said it depends on the context, and like send everything up into flames, and ultimately our president resigned, and we had a new president take over, and then we had our encampment, which lasted for about a month, pro-Palestine encampment that took over the yard. It was very interesting to see how the media outside of the Crimson portrayed what was going on campus, because it felt it was very tense, I'd say, because there are a lot of people on both sides of the issues. We have a really large Jewish community there, and we also have a very loud and active pro-Palestine groups on campus. So a lot of friendships ended. A lot of people not talking to each other. What was really interesting for me was really being forced to understand this issue in a way that I've never really paid much attention to international affairs as much. I don't think in high school or anywhere around here people were talking all that much about what's going on over there. I didn't really know much at all about the issue until like this encampment was there every single day, and I was writing so much about it, and so I'm grateful that this discussion was going on, and I was really surprised to see a lot of the coverage from the New York Times and things like that, because it just did not accurately reflect what was going on campus from my perspective. They were really kind of using what they could to, which was just like the very radical voices on either side, to show what was going on. But I guess that's who would agree to talk with them. But it really showed me the value of local news, and whenever there's something going on at place, turn to that local paper, turn to that local community radio station to actually see what's going on, because they just couldn't get the story right, and we had to correct a lot of things that other people were reporting on. But yeah, that was an interesting time. In another political sense, though, the election was a complete shock for me, because our campus is so very liberal, and we're all like we have debates like our debates are like progressive debates. It's very much like very radical liberals against more like moderate liberals. It's not there's been a resurgence in our Harvard Republican Club for sure, but there's still a very, very minority group on campus. So the whole campus was like just feeling very blue after the election, and I had this whole reckoning after the election results came out. It was like, I really just don't understand this country anymore, because I'm just in this bubble of Cambridge, where our police officers are in charge of taking care of the homeless people, and the city council, everyone goes to the city council, and they agree immediately to institute new bike lanes and shut down the streets for cars. It's like a whole nother world over there compared to here.
You talked a little bit about the media coverage, and I think sometimes in Florida, these protests get painted as this place where anti-Semitic, things are being thrown out and things like that. How did that play out at your campus? And then bigger than that, you kind of alluded to it just now, but what does tolerance look like where you live, on campus and off? And how does it compare to how you kind of viewed tolerance and the way Tampa is, your home is?
Yeah, great. We certainly have groups on campus that are still, calling pro-Palestine protests anti-Semitic. In particular, our one of our large Jewish organizations, Chabad, is the rabbi of Chabad, really relies on that phrase anti-Semitic to kind of try and portray the Palestinian encampment in a certain way. And but I think most people have come to the point where it's no, this is even if we disagree on this issue, it's not necessarily anti-Semitic to critique Israel. but still that outlying view. Like I'll write a story about the encampment from a very like objective standpoint, or maybe just about a vigil, or about what the Jewish community is going through, and you'll see like so many comments on Twitter or anything, just like I don't even know who they are, just like bots or something, calling my story, calling me anti-Semitic, or calling me like a terrorist for writing the story. It's kind of intense, like the outside like pressure. Like looking at Harvard, I get a lot of like emailed responses to my stories from people like all over the country who are like just really paying attention to what the discussion is at Harvard, and I feel like it's not particularly it's not that much different from what's going on other campuses. I don't think. I think what's great is that people are trying to like work together more so, I'd say. Like the administration's really putting out a lot of class options for people to take, people like roundtable discussions for people who just want to like talk about it together. And I've talked to a lot of friends who like want to have careers in international relations and actually go into like fixing this issue and bringing peace to the Middle East, which is like really cool to see. And then in terms of tolerance, like, I mean, that's a whole nother, I mean, it might just be the difference between like high school and college, but like there was, I mean, in high school, like you differ from someone on political issues, and like this is even from me, but it's like you don't want to talk to that person. You want to like, I don't know, they calling names or just like saying like, oh, I don't associate with this person because they voted this way. Whereas like in college now, it's very much like, oh, you see this differently from me? Well, like, let's talk about it. Like, I want to understand your perspective, and understand like why we see things differently, and learn more from each other. So that's kind of like the takeaway I've gotten from this year.
And that's a huge like macro thing that we think about. And Otis, I want to kind of switch a little bit because you alluded to this last time. You were 18 years old at the time. You were one of your goals, success, I think you said, was if you could somehow be middle class working in music, right? But you also talked really eloquently about housing and affordability and zoning. And you mentioned feeling more at home in New Orleans. When you think about having to live after graduation, what does like just generally staying alive, having a place to live, look and feel like for you at 19 years old, in your junior year, right, at Loyola credits wise? Like, what does that look and feel like? And does it scare you? Like, talk to a little bit about that.
I think that the future always holds, it's always something that causes anxiety for most people, I would think, especially if you're not the most stable, but even the most well-off folks probably have some sort of anxieties about the future. I think that that's a pretty normal part of the human condition. But in terms of, I mean, for me personally, I have a pretty good support network of family, and there's a lot of people who, if I ever had any sort of emergencies or struggles with finance, I would have people to go to. So I'm in a very privileged and lucky position to not necessarily have to worry about the immediate need of, oh, I'm going to not be able to live in this house, or I'm going to starve, or this medical crisis is going to put me in debt. But I think for the average college student, especially trying to do what I'm trying to do, if you don't really, really go out and even make connections and like do the college thing that you're supposed to do, if you're still sort of in this state of limbo while you're in college, which is arguably supposed to be a time where you're figuring things out, you feel like you're behind. If you still don't know where exactly you want to end up afterwards, especially at my university, I think that there's this sense that like, where are you going to go? Like you're already behind if you don't have a career path in mind in college. And I don't know if that's always been a thing, but I think that that maybe has shifted. I think that the immediate pressure to be economically viable and independent, and the growing expense of things like groceries and housing and things like that has probably caused a pretty big shift in that. I think that people feel more behind now than they have before. The other issue for me personally is that while New Orleans is a lovely city, it is not a sustainable city for my career choices. Like, I'm a engineer, like an audio engineer and a producer and stuff. And to make a living there doing that, there's a very select set of genres and a very select group of people that can do that there full time. So I would probably have to go East Coast or West Coast, realistically. I mean, Nashville's an option, and those have higher living expenses than New Orleans by far.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you think that with the music production, you would have to leave. Do you know if you can come home here? Have you explored that?
Yeah, there's a couple studios here. There's one called More Sound.
Sure, legendary.
Yeah. And there's a few others from what I know of, but outside of those couple instances, most of the music community here doesn't really make a full-time living off of music. They're always doing a second or third auxiliary thing that's most likely outside of the industry entirely. So if I want to make my full survival off of the industry, be that being an engineer or a producer or, mixing a TV jingle, if I want to stay inside of the industry, I don't think I could do that here.
Case in point, our board operator, Joe Remo, he spends his overnights at Grand Bay recording stuff, and he's here during the day doing that. Last time we were here, we talked about food and whether or not there was things that you just can't get where you are going to school that you can only get here. Mo, you go to school in New York City where they say there's everything, but when you're sitting at home, walking around, and I know it's hard to find money to eat out when you're a college kid, but like, what kind of things do you miss eating when you're up there? And is there food that really reminds you of home and takes you back here when you're lonely? I'm not trying to encourage emotional eating.
I'm always, I think I mentioned this last time, I'm always craving Cafe Hey. I love their VLT. I just discovered their A to Z sandwich, which is also amazing because I just started eating turkey, so that's a new one. I think I also crave a 3 Dot Dash a lot, which is closing
at the end of the year.
Yeah, at the end of the year. So go get that while you can. We should probably do one last 3 Dot
one
Dash
last rodeo burger.
Yeah. People always ask me what I eat when I'm in New York, out and recommendations and stuff. But honestly, I eat at home the large majority of the time. Most of my food comes from Trader Joe's. So, I really haven't found a place that's my place to get food at. There's a couple of diners and coffee shops and things like that, but I really haven't found anything like a sandwich on Cuban bread from La Segunda.
So crazy. I mean, it's awesome in a way. I was talking about this with somebody, what are the quintessentially Tampa things that you literally can't get anywhere? You can get a great burger in a lot of cities in town, but it's weird. People always talk about the Cuban bread and the crunchy crust and the soft, and sometimes when it's still hot and aromatic and it really hits you. And if you are a meat eater, you get that watery cold cut. Sometimes it's just so perfect with the pickle and the mustard. By the way, if you're just joining us, that voice you just heard is Morrissey Montgomery, one of 4 college-aged guests here today. We're talking about this idea of coming home. They go to school elsewhere. They were more or less born and raised here, and we're wondering if they can come home. One of the biggest stories in the Bay Area, obviously, this year was back-to-back hurricanes. It was devastating. I think the city of Tampa officially has finished its cleanup as far as debris on the street, but everywhere you walk around, you see reminders of the storm, whether it's dead plants in somebody's front yard. You can walk into my house. There's no drywall in some of the rooms. Your dad came over to my house and helped me pull gigantic trees out of my yard. Asher, you wrote something for the Crimson because you didn't come home. Probably a wise choice. But talk a little bit about watching that from afar and thinking about your family who was here. I boarded at my house for the first time in my whole life for Milton. And I think your mom lives close to where I live. Talk a little bit about that and that piece and how the storms made you see home.
Yeah, well, it was really, really wild. I think almost anytime there's a hurricane, someone else one of my friends knows about it before I do. Usually it's like someone, maybe a roommate or maybe just an acquaintance who's like, hey, like, I hope your family's okay. I just heard about the storm. And I'm like, what? I do a quick Google search and they're like, oh yeah, Category 5 hurricane coming down. I call my mom like on a routine call and she's like, oh yeah, you know, we're just gonna stay, like maybe put up a few like sandbags, you know, maybe we'll just like go to shuffle if it gets bad. I'm like, okay, like sounds good. But this one was different because it was 2 back to back. And even like Jane Castor was saying, like, if you live in these areas and you don't leave, you might die. And on top of that, it was just like so many of my friends, or even just people hearing him from Tampa, like texting me, like asking me what my parents' plans are, if I'm worried at all. And I, you know, generally I'm like, no, you know, we do this all the time. But this level of concern, this outside concern was causing me kind of, you know, a little bit of panic. And especially my dad lives on a boat. So I was like, what is he going to do? And to not be able to answer my friends' concerns, I felt like a bad daughter, you know, not really understanding what their plan was. And so I decided to write about it just for myself. And then I was like, you know, maybe other people would benefit from reading this as well. And I wrote about what it's like to kind of read the national headlines of something. And I think like being here, right, you can feel the wind and the rain and you can understand like what you need to do and trust your instincts. But then, you know, when you're not and everyone you love is still here, that's a whole different story and more concerning in some way. Like if I was here with them, I could be like, oh, it's just like my life, you know, and we'll figure it out together. While I'm in Cambridge and it's blue and sunny and gorgeous and we're just going about our lives. And meanwhile, like people's homes are flooding here. And I was really grateful to see that it wasn't like my parents weren't impacted in the ways that they were predicted to be, which kind of, you know, clarified my point a little bit, which is like every storm is presented as the worst one, and you know, the worst in 100 years, or it's gonna kill you, and generally you can trust your instincts. I can trust my parents' instincts that, you know, this one's gonna be okay. We can stay, board up our windows. Some of our friends' homes were flooded pretty bad, but no one close to us was too significantly impacted. But it's hard, you know, to figure out how to express this like strange concern and also not concern to my friends who don't really understand what it's like to be from here and to have experienced all these hurricanes.
And to just like be like, yep, it's starting now.
Yeah. Like, yeah, right, exactly. Oh yeah, it makes landfall in like an hour. I don't know what to do, you know, it's there's nothing I can really do about it, you know, from there, besides just keep checking in on people. And
I'm sure you were checking in on Ella. Ella, I'm guessing they sent you home from UCF.
They actually did not.
They did not?
No.
Okay, why not? Because it was the safest place to be.
Yeah, so UCF, of course, Orlando's a lot more inland than from where the hurricane made landfall. And I remember everybody was going home. They gave us the entire week off. And so all my friends were going home to South Florida. I actually had some friends fly back up to where they live in New Hampshire for the week. And so everyone would ask me every day, like, oh, are you going home? Are you going home? And I was like, well, I live in Tampa, so no.
Yeah.
Like I would just be in more danger. But that was definitely a very like anxiety inducing week. Cause it was like Asher was saying, every hurricane, they say it's going to be so bad and it's always fine. But this one, like since it was back to back, I knew people's houses flooded. I was very scared, and I live in a very old house. And so I was very scared for my parents and what their plan was, especially because my parents were actually flying back from Hawaii like the day before it was supposed to make landfall. So I was freaking out about the house. And so it was definitely like very scary to see it, because even though I was more inland, still in the path of the hurricane, but I knew Tampa was just going to get hit worse. And you know, it's funny, like I have a couple friends and we like to mess around and write songs. And And, you know, the only thing on my mind was this hurricane. So, like, I remember I was writing lyrics that week, and some of that stress came through. I wrote about, like, ripping a house up board by board, operating in candlelight, stuff like that. And so when the hurricane actually made landfall, it was funny because the campus was like desolate for such a big campus with a huge student body. Nobody was there. And so to be one of the few left behind, it was weird to see. And when it made landfall, it was just like, it was a little bit scary. I mean, knowing that, like, it was just such a big deal. I know my dorm room actually did get some water in it, which was frustrating. But
yours did from the rain.
Yes,
Wow.
it did. And my floor is carpet, so that sucked. But
Smells good.
Yeah. But I just remember it was definitely a lot of relief after, like, being able to call my parents and know that they were okay and the house was okay. But yeah, we got the week off, and I did hear about a lot of the damages back in Tampa, and I felt for them, and I would tell them, and all my friends would always reach out to me and just be like, hey, like, are your parents okay? How is everything going in Tampa? And I was able to tell them that it was okay.
How much has it changed your prospects of staying here? I know, you know, for a lot of those people that did get flooded out, they're just like, no way, dude. I mean, we watched MLS listings, and we've seen a lot of houses go on sale, just some of them just like as is. Has it made you think about your future here and whether or not you can live here?
Well, I still view Tampa as very much my home. I know I've always lived in, like, kind of the downtown area, and so just growing up with so much stuff to do around me, and now I live in, like, the suburbs of Orlando, where everything is like a driving distance. If I want to go anywhere I enjoy, it's at least like a 20-minute drive from my dorm. So I definitely view coming back to Tampa as a big option for me. However, I know my major is in media production. I really want to work in the film industry. So I am definitely ready to spread my wings and
the Film Commission ain't giving anybody money here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm definitely ready to spread my wings after college. But yeah, I still very much view Tampa as a safe home space for me.
And we'll do a quick round here since we're getting close on time. Do you think you're going to come home, Asher?
I think eventually I will come home. I want to travel around and get
like when
some
you're
more
40?
knowledge, and then maybe when I'm 40, maybe when I'm done with med school or whatever I end up doing, I'll come back.
What about you, Mo?
Honestly, I never really saw myself living in Tampa when I'm older. I always wanted to leave Florida. But, you know, I mean, as I mentioned before, like, once I left, I started to miss it. But I think still I really don't see myself coming back.
And Otis, outside of you finding a job in production here, do you think you can come home?
No, not really.
Okay, that's a no. And in 30 seconds to a minute, what would you say to a young person who does have the opportunity to leave and is on the fence about it? Take us back to the kind of like your decision making. What would you tell that person today?
I think you should do it. Not necessarily because this is a place that you shouldn't live or that it doesn't make sense to live, but more so just because I think living in the same place your whole life and never really going anywhere or experiencing any other way to be is pretty limiting. And I think that if you have the opportunity to go live somewhere else, especially maybe a bigger city with an equally diverse population but a different culture, that's probably a really valuable experience for a lot of people. I think it gives you new perspective and opportunity, and you get to make community wherever you go. So you have community that's not just here. You have community elsewhere now, and I think that that's really cool.
Mo, what say you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that it's important to try out living somewhere else. I mean, even if you end up coming back to Tampa, I think that going somewhere for at least a little bit, maybe while you're young, is a good thing. Expanding your horizons, opening your minds, you know.
Asher?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Always, you know, but I think what's important for me is figuring out what you can learn from a place and what works about it and what lifestyles are there and all of those things and bringing that back to home and remembering that no matter where you go or how long you end up staying away, remembering your ties to a place and all the things that you owe it and a sort of responsibility to come back and make that place better for the people who didn't get that opportunity to leave.
Ella, if you can leave, should you go?
I definitely recommend going. I feel like it was big in just being able to grow up and mature as a person, learning how to live on your own, learning how to meet new people on your own, and go out and try new things, and be able to spread the culture of your hometown to these new places, and then bring the new places back to your hometown. I think it's very important.
It's awesome. That was the voice of Ella Spokes, one of 4 guests today here on The Skinny. Asher Montgomery was with us today. So was Morrissey Montgomery and also Otis Curry Miller. By the way, if you want to see a little bit more of Mo and Ella, they're going to play a show Sunday, January 6th at Shuffle in Tampa Heights. Oh, I'm sorry, Sunday, January 5th. We don't do anything on January 6th. That's like a national holiday now, right? But you can find information on that actually on Creative Loafing Tampa's live music listing. Want to say thank you for listening to WMNF Tampa today on behalf of myself, Ray Roa, our absent hosts, Ben Montgomery and Mitch Perry. Irene Matthews is on the phones in there. Joe Remo, thank you for handling the boards for us. We hope that everybody has a very Merry Christmas. Please stay tuned. Happy New Year. Stay tuned for Joe Ellen. She is in Studio One with Art in Your Ear. We leave you with this parting glass.
Of all the money that I spent it in good company. And of all the harm that I've done, alas, it was to none but me. For all I've done, for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Oh, if I had money enough to spend and leisure time to sit a while, there is a fair maid in this town who surely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks and ruby lips, I own she has my heart enthralled. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades that I've had, they are sorry for my going away. And of all the sweethearts that